to read my script. I don't fit in your funnel. I want to start with something a little awkward to admit out loud. I keep getting invited into rooms I technically fit in, but structurally I just don't belong. You know the kind of invite I mean. Tell me about your journey, come hang in my community. My people would love your work. And the thing is, they probably would, but what I'm noticing is that digital depth economy doesn't actually behave like another coaching offer or a niche program. It behaves like infrastructure. So it's not another business coach teaching you one more strategy. I'm architecting digital occupational health infrastructure, the missing operating system under almost every digital business room you've ever been in. So here's where it gets strange. Right now, this work touches at least 23 different stakeholder groups: creators, coaches, therapists, parents, neurodivergent orgs, unions, researchers, platform folks, and a lot more. It means I kind of fit everywhere and then nowhere at the same time. So in some rooms, I'm likely to get told, you're treating symptoms, not systems. This should be about capitalism and regulation. In other rooms, it's likely to be, isn't this just burnout with better branding? So to me, those objections are actually signals that people sense how large this problem really is. They're not wrong to ask those questions. They're pointing at the fact that what's happening online is not just mindset and it's not just politics. It's a full-blown occupational health gap for deep thinking and deep feeling entrepreneurs in particular. So this isn't a tiny edge case. Depending on which study you look at, and I referenced this again really quick before I printed out what I was going to say, but roughly a third to over a third of entrepreneurs describe themselves as introverts, and around 1 in 3 report ADHD or ADHD traits. So when you zoom out to broader neurodivergence and mental health, some surveys put that number as high as 70% plus of business owners identifying as neurodivergent or having a mental health condition. So that lets me imply that at least 30 to 35% of entrepreneurs sit squarely in deep thinking, atypical processing, nervous system sensitive territory. So here's the parasocial performance trap. So one of the clearest places that I fit nowhere shows up for me is in what I call the parasocial performance trap. Here's the pattern as I see it. You're told to build your whole business by performing intimacy on camera, sharing your struggles, your morning routine, your behind the scenes, often for people who don't actually know you and who you'll never meet. You're then told that that's a relationship. You're told to measure your worth in superfans and followers and the level of access people feel entitled to have to you. Under the hood, this is what parasocial dependency engineering looks like. In my framework, Stockholm 64, there's an entire category for this: false intimacy, broadcasting, mentor illusion, vulnerability as a strategy, and guru worship conditioning. So it rewards you for being endlessly available and punishes you when you take a step back. So all of this is happening too while your Stripe account still needs to work. So you're told if you don't play this game, you won't survive. So of course it feels like you have to choose between making a living and keeping your soul intact. So I wrote about this in more depth in a piece on the parasocial performance trap. So this isn't a funnel either. It's just a lens, a way to look at the relationship model itself and realize, oh, this isn't about me being too sensitive. The model is misaligned with my actual nervous system. So it's important that when I do these videos too, that I offer relief way before strategy, because that is what so often you need. So before we talk about any diagnostic or a map, I don't think your system needs more strategy. I think it probably needs a major exhalation. One of the 6 core devastations I track is something I call feedback famine. It's not just my post flopped, like thinking. It's that sick feeling in your body when you pour yourself into something, you pour your heart into your work, and the internet goes silent for 48 hours after you've shared it, and your nervous system reads that as danger. The research I've seen so far suggests that this kind of digital silence can spike cortisol to clinical anxiety levels and trigger all kinds of spirals like, I'm irrelevant, my work doesn't matter, I should burn this all down. I have lived that multiple times the last 9 years, and I see it everywhere. So I built a free tool called Digital Silence Decoder. It isn't therapy. It's not a diagnosis. It's a GPT-based tool. And before, any scoffing at that, although you're welcome to scoff, I realized that there's some conflict of interest in there using an extractive platform, like a lot of the AIs are turning into. But I've got to start somewhere, and I'm not disillusioned by that. So I'll just say that. But okay, so the Digital Silence Decoder, it's a GPT-based tool that meets you in that I feel invisible moment and helps your nervous system come back online enough to see what's actually happening, which is it normalizes the reaction. It names the environment piece instead of blaming your character or your business ideas or your business acumen. It gives you a little bit of ground back before you make any big decisions, any impulsive decisions, because we've seen the data also shows there's huge major pivots after some of these launches because of the feedback famine from the digital silence. It also doesn't fix capitalism, because I know that is a strong objection or argument. And it doesn't fix platform design, which I know is the major contributor to all this. It's simply there, though, so that your body doesn't become collateral damage every time an algorithm withholds its feedback, because that is how it's designed. Okay. So seeing the pattern, once you're not in acute crisis, the question that usually bubbles up is, okay, but what is actually happening to me? That's where the multi-axis diagnostic comes in. It's a clinical grade assessment that maps, I'm making sure I'm still recording too. Okay, good. It's a clinical grade assessment that maps which of the 6 core devastations are active for you: identity erosion, feedback famine, energy bankruptcy, ethical tech tension, legacy anxiety, and neurostrategy misalignment. And then it measures those at what severity you're experiencing them too. It also assesses how long you've been economically dependent on platforms, because that is a factor. How early you started earning online. Whether your neurodivergence and masking have been part of your story. The masking has to do with putting on personas. The neurodivergent community does that a lot, feels like they have to do that a lot. In other words, it doesn't just ask, are you burned out? It asks, how is the structure of your digital work injuring you? And how deep does that go? So I want to be clear about what it is and it isn't. It's an occupational health map for digital work. It's not a mental health diagnosis, and it doesn't replace therapy or medical care. It won't overthrow extractive platforms tomorrow, but it will tell you with a lot more precision where those systems are currently hitting your brain, your energy, and your sense of self, so that you can make safer decisions about how you're doing business. And this is important to me. The entire point is not to tell you to get off the internet. The point is to help you make a livelihood online without incurring avoidable harm. Same work, different architecture. So if you're a coach, a consultant, or a practitioner, I want to name something that I've been seeing and hearing about over and over. I hear from that group of people. I think a lot of my clients are neurodivergent, but I'm not trained to spot it. Or I hear, I'm watching clients burn out mid-program and I don't know what to do. And then, what if I'm making things worse by pushing them through when they're clearly struggling? So in my experience, you're often being asked to hold things your certification never prepared you for. Clients ghosting after week 3 and calling it lack of commitment. Quiet churn killing your margins and making you question your own competence. And then people who are brilliant and sincere, but whose nervous systems are being fried by the way digital work is currently structured. DDE, digital depth economy, is not asking you to become a therapist. What I'm trying to offer is occupational health literacy, a way to tell the difference between this client is resisting the work and this client is being injured by the environment that we're both operating in. When you see it that way, improving completion rates and client outcomes and lifetime value stops being a mindset problem and it becomes a design question. I hope that's sounding a huge distilling crystal bell for you. I don't even know what I just said, a crystal bell. Okay. Okay, so is the container aligned with the neurobiology of the people inside it? That's the question. If you steward a room full of deep thinking founders and you feel the ethical weight of that, these tools are here to help you make your space safer without burning out your people or yourself. Okay, I'm almost done. I know I sit at a strange intersection. It's becoming more and more evident. On any given day, I could easily be in conversation with creators, with parents, neurodivergent advocates, therapists, platform folks, eventually labor and policy people. I actually was in a meeting this morning with several of those groups of people. And it's becoming more obvious as a standard online it's becoming more obvious as standard online coaches and consultants reach out and say, come into my circle, come into my mastermind, come into my Slack. Our people need this. So they're not wrong about the need, but most of those rooms are still built on the same parasocial performance-driven assumptions that I'm studying as occupational hazards. So I have to be careful not to reenact my own burnout by overgiving inside containers that were never designed for this kind of infrastructure work. What I'm choosing right now is to focus primarily on occupational health at the individual and container level, helping deep thinking entrepreneurs and the people who serve them see the harms clearly and rebuild in a way that protects their nervous systems while staying in honest conversation with the people working on policy with regulation and labor. And I don't think that's the final answer. You know, I know this is all unfolding organically, but at this point, this is the clearest ethical line that I can hold this season. So if I turn down being in your group, just know, like, my work is so upstream in so many ways. And so there is space, but it's not from the angle you're probably anticipating and asking for. Anyway, so if any of this is landing for you, here are a few ways you can engage with this work at your own pace. If you just want language for why performing intimacy for strangers feels wrong in your body, start with the parasocial performance trap. I was going to say something else, but the video is already 13 minutes long. Go ahead and read it, argue with it, bring your own examples. It's here to help you see the pattern, not to recruit you. I don't claim to know everything. I'm just willing to look at it all and dig in for solutions and show up and support. If you're in that I feel invisible place right now, try the digital silence decoder. Use it the next time a launch or a post gets nothing but crickets and see if it shifts how quickly you go to self-blame. And then if you're ready for more precise mapping, especially if you've been building online for years and you can feel that something is cracking under the surface, the multi-axis diagnostic will show you exactly which devastations are present and what that means for how you work. And if all you do after this video is think, maybe I'm not crazy for filling out a place in the standard online business narrative, maybe it isn't me, that's already something. You don't have to opt in. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to prove you're serious by doing those things. You don't have to do anything. Like, that's valid. If you're one of the people stewarding a lot of deep thinking humans and you want to talk about it, it would mean you would want to talk about what it would mean to make your container safer. I'm open to those conversations. That is why I'm here. But only if you were genuinely redesigning the architecture. not just bolting on another mindset module. I've already explained what it is. Like, it's just not the same thing. There's no countdown timers. There's no last chance language. Just an honest invitation to protect your livelihood and your health at the same time. I'm Linnell Madsen of the Digital Depth Economy, and I'm right here for you. Love you.